Hello there.
Hey, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been precisely a while since the last time that we made a video for reasons that we will get into not right now. Because right now, we've got something less important to talk about. What's that?
We are talking about Arrow, the Green Arrow TV show that debuted 2 weeks ago.
Yes, and we could have done this last week, but we decided not to because I saw everyone has up their Arrow reviews from as soon as the pilot aired, but you can never just review the pilot, because you can never just watch the pilot, because the pilot, for almost everything, is terrible. When I watch TV shows that are like on video, unless it's necessary, I usually just skip the pilot, because I don't like to judge those.
And the reason the hood is because Arrow wears a hood in the show, and so, yeah.
He wears this all the time.
Mhm.
And also, just the pilot is exceptionally incomplete for this series. Anyway,
So let's not review the pilot.
I think that we could look at the two together, just the series overall.
Okay.
First off, did you like it?
The second episode was was an incredible improvement over the first.
Yes, but did you like the series overall?
I liked bits of the second episode.
I like bits of the first episode, but would you say it's a good show?
Not yet.
Neither would I. It's weird because television has kind of started coming back in the past few years, just as a medium for anything. I mean, you have a lot of TV shows now that are really big, not even just on cable. I mean, you have the HBO shows and everything. But you've also got, like, Mad Men, that kind of stuff. And everyone watches that, and it's really good. Network TV, as in sort of this was on the CW, right?
Yeah.
We've been watching it on the computer, but just network TV hasn't really been enjoying that same sort of newfound popularity, mostly because the shows on the networks tend to suck, especially the CW. They've got, what's their big show right now?
Arrow?
Yeah, it's Arrow. No, this is actually, apparently Arrow brought them their best ratings in 3 years, just from the pilot. Yeah. This is the One Tree Hill channel we're talking about, so, yeah. And predictably, they take a very CW network TV, One Tree Hill type approach to the Green Arrow mythos.
Mm-hmm.
Does Green Arrow really have a mythos?
I TV troped it about a week ago, and unlike other superheroes who will have like a whole bunch of TV tropes pages, Arrow only has one for like everything, like Green Arrow.
Yeah.
And then he has one for the television show, but that doesn't really count.
What's the story of the TV show? I mean, I'm sure that anyone who's watching this probably knows the comics, so let's just look at the show.
Well, like the comics, Oliver Queen, who is the heir of a rich company guy thing.
In what city?
In
Starling
City instead of Star City, like in the comics.
Because who could believe there's a city called Star City?
Yeah.
Starling, completely different.
He's on a yacht, on a party boat trip with his father and his girlfriend's sister, and then a big storm happens, he gets shipwrecked, everyone dies except for him, he gets stranded on an island for 5 years, somehow picks up archery and a whole bunch of other skills, comes
MMA.
back... What? MMA, different languages, whatever. Comes back 5 years after being stranded.
And he shoots Deathstroke's mask.
Yeah, Deathstroke's mask was in the pilot for some reason. And comes back, gets rescued, begins vigilante hunt in the show to avenge his father's really bad business practices and Robin Hood everything back to decency.
And the thing is that we don't even find out much of this until the second episode.
The first 40 seconds of the second episode.
Yeah, no, because he has this book, and this book has the names of all of the people who he needs to go after. And we pretty much only find out in the recap that introduces the second episode, explains things that make the first episode make sense.
Mm-hmm.
All of the most interesting things are sort of almost revealed between episodes.
Yeah.
But we never know what happened on the island. That seems to be a motif. What happened to you on that island? But we never really find out by the second episode, at least. And for some reason, his father's business practices were cruel and unusual and unfair, so he needs to make things right. And how does he do it? By shooting arrows at people.
Yeah, at rich people.
Yeah, no, and it'll be like, put money into this bank account or I'll shoot you with an arrow. Or it'll be like,
give money to these people.
Confess to this crime or I'll shoot you with an arrow. And all that stuff. And also, I guess, And he has a mother and a sister and a person who's looking after him, and there's
a bodyguard.
A bodyguard, yeah, the person looking after him. And I guess the other important character would be
his ex-girlfriend, whose sister he slept with
on the yacht.
On the yacht that crashed. Laurel Dinah Lance.
It's actually Dinah Laurel Lance.
Dinah Laurel Lance, whatever. People call her Laurel, but we know her name is Dinah Lance. Anyone who...
It's mentioned in one line at the end of the first episode, and I'm sure it will never be brought back.
Anyone, I'm guessing, who reads the comics or knows the cartoon or anything, she's Black Canary. She even works for a law firm called CNRI, or Kinry. It's close.
She's Black Canary.
Yeah.
And she resents Ollie because, like, she blames him for her sister's death and all this stuff. And that's pretty much the story.
Yeah.
There's not much that's happened so far.
The story, Oliver tries to do all this shit to avenge his father. Everyone blames him for being the only survivor.
Everyone blames him for everything. And I think maybe we should talk about, okay, the story is, that's like pretty much what the plot is, and it's taken us 6 minutes to explain it, even though it's not that complicated. But I guess really, what do they do with it? I mean, just the general tone and progression of each episode.
It's
the execution.
It's kind of split down the middle. Because all the drama stuff is very CW, I guess. It's all melodramatic. Everyone's angry at Oliver for no good reason. All the characters don't really have proper motivations or proper setup for their emotions. Just comes out of nowhere. And Oliver, who's the only reasonable character, is kind of just quiet for the first 2 episodes until at the end of the second episode he's like, I'm going to start being rude again. And, which is what happens. And so that's all very melodramatic and kind of the dialogue sucks. The action bits are pretty neat.
I think they're definitely, in terms of exciting action to watch, I think they're very well done.
The part where he's not Green Arrow.
I'm sorry?
The part where he's not -Green Arrow.
There we go,
yeah.
Yes. The part where he is the mysterious figure in the hood who doesn't have a name.
Mm-hmm.
The costume looks very nice.
It is
I
a cool
actually
costume.
like it. He doesn't have a mask, he just has, like, makeup, but it's fine, I don't mind. He has a tendency to point his thing down so his hood is covering. I don't know how he sees. Kind of like that, pretty much. But, no, the action works. I mean, it's good. The problem is that there are maybe, like, 3 action sequences an episode, and in any medium you normally have, per story, 3 big action sequences, but these tend to last, like, a minute or 2 each. And if there were, like, some big, complicated story that he needs to fill this space with, then that would be fine, that would be enjoyable, but there's not. In between is just kind of the in-between point where everyone talks about stuff that never really goes anywhere. I mean, here's the thing. I think the reason that all of these really long-running TV shows that are getting to be really popular, like I said Mad Men before, I'll say it again, the Mad Men's, the Breaking Bad, I think that's a popular
one. The Dexters.
Dexter, Walking Dead. I mean, we can all name TV shows that are very successful because they can tell really long stories instead of just simple episodic stories or just short stories the way that movies would tell. This isn't one of those long-running shows. It's like there's stuff that carries from one episode to another, but there's no real overarching conflict. They're just small. Like in the first one, okay, it's really whoever Black Canary is suing is whoever, like, Arrow, he's going to target him. But even that will make up very little of an episode. An entire episode will mostly be people talking about what their relationship to each other is.
Yeah.
Like, with him and his sister.
Oh, this is pretty neat. His sister, in the first episode, we find out that Oliver's sister is nicknamed Speedy, and that
in his absence, she turned to drugs.
Yeah, which was pretty neat.
Do you want to talk about it, or should I talk about that?
I want to do it.
All right.
So, his sister's name is Thea. I don't know if that's in the comics or anything at all, if he has a sister named Thea. But Thea...
his sister's name is Roy Harper.
But his sister, Thea, who's 17 now, so she was like 12, 11 when Ollie first disappeared, in grief. And she's like the most reasonable character, I think.
Almost, but
in the thing. Like, I mean... But out of every character, she's the most, I guess, with the most motive to do what she does.
I think Oliver would be the one with the most.
He doesn't count. But she, in his absence, and her father's absence, she turned to drugs and alcohol and partying and stuff just because...
What? Let's talk about that actual scene.
Oh, that actual scene.
The way that they end up going, what I was trying to talk about is how you'll have because I think we've done enough summarizing. You could wiki it if you want the rest. Although I think we've pretty much told you everything. The way that you'll have it is, for example, there was a scene in the second episode in which the two of them will be like, okay, you are my brother, and you've been gone, and I have been pretty much what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And in your absence, I am really sad, and now you're back, but you're not opening up to me, and I understand that that you don't want to because you were on an island, but now you're back, and now you need to fill that place in my life that is gone. And he's like, no, but I was on the island, and I can't open up to you, but I can't tell you why, but I will open up to someone, but not yet. If this were tied in with some sort of actual stuff that was happening, then that I could accept, or I could enjoy that. Or if this were something that progressed across the episode, like they do things together, or they're interacting with each other, and this is sort of the maybe overt, maybe covert. If this were actually the terms of what's going on between them, then that would be one thing. But they pack it all into one scene. It's the only scene with her in the episode, and they just talk about what their relationship is.
Not to mention that most of the actual exposition of telling us stuff that has happened to set up the story is all done in flashback.
Yeah, all the important things are told in flashbacks,
Yeah.
and all the things we already know are restated in really long, drawn-out scenes.
And it's not like the dialogue is good, where you can give it at least a 12 rating. The dialogue's pretty crap.
Well, it's pretty melodramatic, I think. I was telling Noah this earlier, that I think that the problem with the dialogue, and also the acting, is that they go for drama, and it's really like this, when people will keep their eyes open really wide and stare at the person they're talking to, and they will talk very slowly, trying to make what they're saying sound meaningful, and maybe their voice will quiver a little, but that sort of thing.
Everyone is on the verge of crying in the show.
But at the same time, there's nothing happening at that moment that would prompt that much intensity. There's no reason for them to be, not that there's necessarily no reason, there's no reason for us to see, for them to be at that close to, let's say, just going over the edge. It's like they're trying to play drama when there is no drama. Oh, also, the other thing that really annoys me, the actual, like, action conflict, which, first off, only takes up a very small part of each episode so far, that conflict stuff, it comes out of nowhere. It's just explained to us. And other than giving us a context for, like, a couple of action scenes...
We get, like, a name and a relationship that the person he's hunting has with the Mafia.
Yeah, no, we get, like, what the person's name is, what the person did wrong. We're told. We don't actually see... In the first episode, in the pilot, the guy who's the bad guy, we don't even see him until the first scene where Arrow's going after him.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, Arrow will have sort of a fight thing, but with that, it's kind of, why do I care? Unless you've set up this person in some way that makes him interesting to the story, other than Black Canary's going after him. In this one, she's suing someone for conspiracy to commit murder. That makes sense. But other than that, there's nothing to set them up. So, okay, the action could look good, but there's no story payoff for any of it. There's no story payoff for anything. Because
it's like, by the end, the guy is caught. There's no, yay, he got caught.
It's just,
okay, I guess Arrow did a thing.
Yeah, and, oh, yeah, he gathered some evidence that's not admissible in court. Spoiler alert, Arrow wins.
Is that cool?
Yeah, no, they are.
In the first episode, he had this trick arrow that somehow beamed money from one bank account to another over time.
It was a cyber hack arrow.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's different kinds of trick arrows. It's not like this is a net arrow, this is an ice arrow. He does have an exploding arrow on the island. Don't tell me how that happened. But
we don't know it's exploding, though. Just in, like, the first scene, when we see him get rescued, it's like a boat passes by, so there's, like, a bundle of wood or whatever, like a bundle of wood. He shoots an arrow towards it. The arrow's on fire. The wood explodes! Like Michael Bay mushroom cloud explosion out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Couldn't just be a flare arrow. But overall, that's kind of, it doesn't go anywhere. I think Bruce Timm, I hate to bring him up, but very often when he's talking about Superman the Animated Series, he says that they really needed to reach deep and pull out interesting characters who were villains, because after, like, Brainiac and Luthor and maybe, like, Parasite or Metallo, all of Superman's enemies are just old men in their 40s who are businessmen and wear suits. And he points out, okay, that's not interesting, you can't make a show about that, so you need to actually dig deep for other stuff. It's the same thing here. If everyone in a suit is just like, or just anyone who's an enemy, if they all pretty much look the same, if they all pretty much have the same personality, if they all just vaguely did something that, okay, it was wrong, and we don't even really get a sense of the consequences, except for the flashback consequences.
And also, like, with the first episode, it's like all these rich people are stealing money or, what sort of begin with an E?
Embezzling?
No, not embezzling. Extorting money from, like, people and whatever. We don't even see any poor people on the show. Like, we are shown nothing to show us that Starling City is such a crap hole that everyone talks about it as if it were.
No, because this, again, it has this very beautiful people, elite kind of feeling to it. Like, okay, this is a drama of incredibly powerful, rich people who live these kinds of lives, and I could understand that. But if the entire character's motivation is selfless, and it's also to give back, then if there's no sense of who he's giving back to, that sucks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to use such an ineloquent term, but it does. It was the same problem I had with Public Enemies. It's about John Dillinger, and you never see the Great Depression. Sorry about that sidetrack. But no, I mean, that's kind of a thing that in the comics with Green Arrow, I don't know what his backstory is now, if they've changed it or whatever, but he actually has, he's a political character, but his political leanings come from his experiences of sort of having everything and then losing things. And he comes to understand and learn why it is that he needs to sympathize with
the poor
or the oppressed or those who are taken advantage of by people who are more powerful. If there's no moment where anyone in this show actually shows any sort of real compassion that isn't just a throwaway line to drive the plot forward, then there's no point to it, and it feels incredibly artificial.
Mm-hmm.
And again, also, where it could go is kind of troubling me, because they set up interesting things.
Like they set up Merlin, who's supposed to be one of Green Arrow's arch enemies. They set up Black Canary. They set up Deathstroke with the mask on the island.
We know just from what I've read that Deadshot's going to be in the next one. Mm. But it's like they set up interesting things, and they have like plot twists. Ooh, that's interesting.
Oh, the mother's out to something.
But I know that the payoff is going to be maybe
a guy in a suit.
Maybe 3 seconds of action in the next episode. Sorry, not 3 seconds. 3 minutes of action in the next episode.
Or a guy in a suit who gets arrowed or something.
Yeah. And also the other... there are just 2 more things before we wrap this up, because we're kind of going long.
Yeah.
Just for me, at least. It's that, number 1, there's a problem when what happened on the island is what's supposed to characterize Oliver's mindset,
but we don't
know the reason that he's doing everything. What happened. We don't know. At the end of every episode, or at the beginning of every episode, so far, a little bit is just shown to us.
Like at the end of episode 2, we see...
Don't say.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, I don't want to go too far, because it actually is an interesting twist.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely an interesting twist. The problem is that if the twists are things that actually give us information we need in order to appreciate the plot, then that's not a good twist. Yeah. That's vital information you're withholding. And I guess my other problem, I just can't tell what kind of a world this is supposed to be. I think they're going for less of
They're going for a Nolan-type thing.
But not even, because it's like they're going for sort of a less of a superhero, fantasy, adventure sort of thing, and more of a soap opera drama. I'm sorry, this is a soap opera world, and I don't have a problem with that on principle, even though I don't think it really works here. But then it clashes when you have something like the Triad leader is this Asian woman with long white hair like Raiden who knows like kung fu.
And knives.
I mean, that is just completely from another genre.
Yeah.
It's from the comic book genre, but it seems so out of place. Like, are we doing serious extortion, mafia smuggling, or are we doing crazy martial arts hitman assassins? If you can't make up your mind, and if you can't have that sort of consistency, I can't get invested either way. So are you going to be watching the next episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately I am too.
And I'm going to be watching episode 7 because Jeff Johns writes it. So
Jeff Johns wrote the tie-in comic that sucked too. I'm going to be watching it too, because Deadshot, but I'm not exactly... I don't have high hopes for the rest of the series.
No, it's...
Letter scale, where would you put it?
C-. D.
I'd give it a D+, D+. And I know that's being like a little bit harsh. I think that might be close to what I gave the actual comic for when issue 1 came out last year. But the reason for it is that there are things in it that I really like, but instead of standing out on their own and helping the show, they just kind of get lost.
Yeah. Okay, so if next episode is anything noteworthy, we'll probably make a follow-up.
Yeah.
And if not, we're just going to talk about a different thing in our next video. Something we're excited about.
Okay.
See ya.